So right off the bat, you saw my thing that said three. I'm gonna give you the three secrets, or whatever I called this thing today. It was a lie. I just wanted to get you in here, have a discussion about health and wellness. But the three quick things I want to go over is, one is what's possible. I mean, everybody in this room right now, you're looking for something. You're looking to get healthier. You're looking to get better looking. You're looking to get more energy. You're looking to reverse aging, like me and Bill are. Is that fair enough to say? Is that what everybody's looking for? Okay. So this is what's possible as far as the aesthetic stuff go. But I'm going to get into a lot of stuff with wellness. But like Angela said, what you eat, what you think, who you surround yourself with, the habits that you put in your place is what dictates this. The aesthetics is the icing on the cake. But we got to start from the ground level. Like I'm looking at Shelly here. How much weight have you lost over the last couple of years? Lots.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. Like, and you just decided it was time to make a change, right? I mean, that's ultimately what it was.
Yeah.
So the three things right off the bat, which is I know you went through this, Colin. I know you went through this, Bill. I know I went through this. You too, Latoya, Claudia. All you guys, I've done your health histories. I know at one point you've been through this, but you have to remind yourself to do this again. Is that before you ever make a change in your life, you got to be a little bit pissed off about something. Something's got to piss you off a little bit. It's your weight. It's like Andrew was saying, you feel like Eeyore. It's your energy. Once you get pissed off enough, that's going to move you to action. So don't get angry at yourself. Don't get mad at the universe. Don't get mad at the world if all of a sudden your life looks like it's horrible. It looks like it's stressful. That stress is a gift to you. That stress is to get you out of your comfort zone to make a move somewhere else. So like the majority of people that I see in this office, I'll see like the top 20% of athletes. We've been the UFC chiropractor for 20 years. We treat pro athletes. And then I see like the people in the bottom 20% of their life. That middle 60% who's too comfortable, that 20% of is your lowest part of your life is, when you get sick, is when your joints start to hurt, when you can't move anymore, your energy gets so low. But there's people, that 60% in the middle, they don't do anything. It's the most dangerous place to be in America, is that 60 place in the middle. Because you just get on your phone and you can Uber food. And you can Netflix something. And then, whatever you want. I think they even deliver pot to your house right now. You just got to pay in cash. Whatever you want, you can do it. And if you're in the middle, I hear the laughter, so I know some of this has been done. And I'm good with that. I think medical marijuana has a great place. But the point is, if you're in pain or if you're frustrated, if there's an area of your life that you want to change, it's good that you get pissed off at that a little bit. That means it's time to make a change. The second piece to that is that you got to recognize that your ability to change your condition in life is unlimited. You guys know my story about being paralyzed on a football field. Like, I remember that being the worst possible thing that could have happened to myself. Turns out it wasn't. The worst possible thing that happened to myself is when I got in a position of hopelessness. And hopelessness is the difference between suffering and being hopeless. Suffering means you're just in a bad place, but it's temporary. Hopeless, you feel like there's no way out of it. And I remember that position. And I remember getting pissed off and angry with God and all these deals I was going to make in my life. But then the biggest realization happened from whatever book or whoever the speaker was I was thinking about. It says no matter what condition you are in your life, the first step that has to happen after those two conditions happen, you get pissed off, you realize that you got to make a change and there's a powerful change that can happen to you, you got to take action. So tonight I want you to take action. Whether it's something we're going to do with me, you're going to pick something out of this talk tonight, and I'm going to fire hose you. I'm going to try to keep this within about 40 minutes, but I'm going to fire hose you. Pick one or two things out of this tonight. You're going to look better. You're going to reverse diabetes. You're going to reverse osteoarthritis. You're going to walk again. You're going to dance again. You're going to date again. You're going to do it all with a smile on your face, okay? So my story about being paralyzed. Long story short, I went up taking a terrible hit on a football field, but if I go back to the injury, the hit I took on the football field that paralyzed me was not what caused the problem. If you go all the way back to my history, when I was 8 years old, I was at a birthday party and somebody had a trampoline. And that caused my first back injury. And it turns out it was probably close to 15, 16 years later, that was the part of my disc that I blew out on the football field. So in front of you guys, I'm going to talk about Tiger Woods for a second, although Angela hates Tiger Woods because he cheated on his wife. But Tiger Woods has a good story, because you guys follow Tiger because we're here in Orlando. Yeah, because he's over in Windermere. So, Tiger had back surgery, he had knee surgery, he had the best surgeons in the world flying to Sweden, flying to Germany, have all this stuff done. And he still couldn't walk, he still couldn't jog, he still couldn't move, but he wanted to play in the Masters. So after all the choices in the world that Tiger Woods had, he wound up doing stem cell and PRP and laser, which is, some people in this room have had this done, and the results are phenomenal. That's regenerative medicine. That's what I want to talk to you about tonight. It's one of the most exciting things that I've ever come across in almost 20 years of practice. You guys got a little line in front of you, okay? Everybody got a little line in front of you? You have a pen? Okay, Laura, you got your pen? You already wrote on the line? Of course you did, overachiever. Take action's good. Make another line, Latoya. We have another need for the line. All right, so on the left side of that line, put 0. And on the right side of that line, put 80. 80. So if you look at the Census Bureau, the average woman lives to be 78. The average man lives to be 74.5 years. So I'm gonna round it up to 80 years. All right, so look on your line right there. 0 is your birthday. The day you're born, 80 is most likely the end of your life. Because some of you overachievers are going to make it to 95, but we're going to say 80. Now put a dot where you are right now in life. Oh, Shelly, you're not that old. Stop. Stop. All right, look at that dot right now. And look at it from the space you have from the left to the right. How many people's dot has more space to the left of the life behind you than what it has in front of you? Yeah, the majority of us. So what that tells you where you are right now in life, where you are right now, your health, your relationship, your appearance, your quality of life, what you enjoy, all the things you've done from that 0 to right now, that's what's got you to that point. Now you know that if you're over the age of, let's say, 40, that your habits, the way you think, the lens you look at the world is going to dictate where that is. Now look at that. Look at how much little space you have left in relation to the first part. That's what I want you to get tonight. Tonight, I really want you to take action, but I want you to frame this through the lens that you want to get to the goal with. And I don't care if it's aesthetics. I mean, Angela and I built an entire. It is not vain in my world for you to want to look beautiful. It is not vain in my world. How many people here feel like maybe people look down on them for wanting to look good? Has nobody judged you guys for wanting to look good? Yeah, I know you, Latoya. So anytime you see someone who takes care of themselves, there's two things that happen in reaction in the human mind. If you see somebody who's more attractive or more wealthy, you go to two places. Either they have done that illegally in a way that is outside of their control, they just happen to fall into that, or they were born that way, or the other part of your brain says, man, that's something to aspire to. I can learn from that person. That's something. We all protect ourselves in those ways. So on that line right there, what I want you to look at is the space to the right. That's what we're going to work on, okay? Now, here's the 3 things that I really want you to get tonight. The 3 secrets about being, first of all, pissed off. Second of all, you want to be able to make that change in your life and then move to action. But this is the 3 broad categories that we always start with everybody in the office. And after 25 years in practice, 35,000 patients, 4 books, this is the simplest formula I can give you. How many people in here eat? Okay. So Bill's fasting. He's just on wine right now. So I want to tie this together in a very short amount of time because each one of these is a complicated subject. But food, we always start with food. How many people got the Great American Food Fight? Did anybody? If you're a patient on, you should have already gotten it. If not, make sure we'll give you a copy of the Great American Food Fight. But I started writing a pamphlet for patients. Patients wanted to know, what can I eat? What can I not eat? Just give me a list. So it started off with like a Word document with like 25 foods. I'm like, well, you know what? Oatmeal maybe isn't good under this condition. Before I know it, I've got Angela's mom as my editor. I'm 5 years in. We've got 3,000 references, and our food system is so complicated. Like, how many people have been told, like, cream of wheat or wheat is good for you? Like, whole grains are good for you? Most of us were born on that. So it's actually the worst medical advice you could possibly get currently in 2023, is that grains and wheat are good for you. The wheat today is not the same wheat it was 20 years ago. It's the wheat that we had as kids is extinct, except for in some salt mine in Utah somewhere. Now, if you put the food together here, and the food is the fuel that makes the cell. The food is also the fuel that makes the hormone reaction in your body. There's 2 ways that your body makes a hormone. It makes it through fat and cholesterol, which comes from the food. And the second one is your movement. So is that a new concept for people, that movement changes your hormones? Now, I'm going to walk you through this, but I want you to understand why hormones are so important. Hormones are the communication system to the body. So if anybody here grew up in the 80s, you remember the little coffee can and the string in the coffee can? That was the original cell phone. You could put it across thing, and you could literally communicate across. It was a very ineffective way, but you could communicate. And now today we go cell phones, super high tech, super fast, instantaneous. Same exact thing with hormones. The challenge is that the way a hormone communicates with the body is through a chemical reaction that goes to a cell. So regenerative medicine is basically built around how do we rebuild the cell so it communicates better with the other cells. whether it's a nerve because you get tingling down the leg, whether it's your skin because you want the collagen to get pulled tighter, it's all the same thing. It's just different parts of the body. When you have poor food choices, or when you have, let's say, a lot of sugar, or a lot of inflammatory foods, or a lot of preservatives, or a lot of plastics in your food, they bind to that receptor in the cell as a chemical that disrupts the communication between hormones. So the big one that you guys have already probably have heard of is like BPA with the plastic, like don't drink out of plastic. And I'm glad I'm drinking out of a glass water bottle, because usually I get to this point, I say don't drink out of plastic, I'm drinking out of a plastic water bottle. But once in a while, it's not that bad. The challenge is, though, is that plastic, that binds to the estrogen receptor on the cell, and then your body gets estrogen dominant. And high estrogen causes cancer and inflammation. That's just one example. Anytime you have food that causes inflammation, anytime you have stress that causes inflammation, you get a breakdown of the cell. If you can't repair cells faster than you break them down, guess what we see? Aging. That's the definition of aging, is that our body's breaking down faster. So everything that we do, we want to rebuild that cell. So food, and when I say diet, has anybody done? You've done our workshops before. Mm-hmm. If you go on a diet in my office, we're not putting you on diet foods. This is the foods that we're putting you on. We want whole foods that the body can break down. The more ingredients that are in food doesn't always necessarily mean it's bad, but it does mean that there's more of a complex process for the body to break it down. And when the body needs to use resources to break down the food, it takes energy, and that takes resources from somewhere else it could be repairing. So like when you drink a Coke, it has almost what are called cascades, which are metabolic pathways that the body needs. You use almost all of your metabolic cascades to break down Coke. But one of the things I'm going to jump on about Coke and high fructose, which is the sweetener of Coke, high fructose, this is like high fructose is corn that you've condensed down to make super sweet. This is probably one of the most deadliest things, and I tie this into this here. When you have high fructose corn syrup, it's about 10 to 20 times more concentrated than sugar. So they take corn, they condense it down, it's subsidized by the government, so it's super cheap, and it goes in all of our foods. High fructose corn syrup is called fructose. Now when you take fructose and you drink it or you eat it, it bypasses the small intestines, gets grabbed by the liver, and gets converted into what's called glycogen, which becomes fat. Long story short, it goes from glucose, it goes from sugar to glycogen to fat, and it skips all that middle step right there, which is why it's so tough if you have a sugar addiction or fructose addiction. All right, so as you see this chart, this is what I want you to get. This is the primary thing I want you to get tonight, because at the end of the day, I'm a nutrition guy, and what you put in your body is going to make the cells. So this is the food pyramid that almost all of us grew up in. You see the bottom one? Breads and grains. All right, so the next thing, then we got our fruits and veggies. Then we got, for some reason, at one point we mixed fish and dairy, and I don't know where that came from. And then we get into meats, and then we get into the oils. So in 1970, this chart was pushed through. And there's something else was happening in the 70s at the same time, is that our economy was going through a massive recession. It was going through massive deflation. And that's when our farmers really started to hurt. So we actually had a national movement to boost farmers. And then whoever the president was, or whoever the congressman was taking the subsidies, which means that the government pays for it, and they said, well, let's push those subsidies into the farmer, which I think is a great idea. But what they wound up doing is paying for grains and corn and wheat. And then what they said from there is, well, you know what? We have all this production now. What are we going to do with it? Let's hire an agency, and this is literally, you can look this up, to put together a food chart to move all that grain. This was not based on science. This was not based on science at all. So if you look at most of your diets now, like when I put together our program, or I put together any of our wellness programs, we took about 300 diets out there, and now it's super, with the computer, it's super easy to do this. You can find the references for those, the research for a diet plan. Like if you're going to do like the Twinkie diet, you're going to do the cabbage diet, paleo diet, you guys have heard of these, right? So you can take the reference sources for those and then reverse them and find out what is the sources from that. No matter what diet plan you're on, there's really only 8 steps that all of the diet plans that are the most successful use to get that outcome. And then they do a variation of about 20 or 30% of it. But the number one that they all do, that every single diet does that's effective, is they take out the grains and the sugar. So this is the reason, this is the main reason why we've seen this massive influx of obesity from the 70s to today, and it was predicted. This was predicted. And it's only getting worse. So there's my motivation for you tonight. We're good. We're done for the night. No more grains. You're motivated? All right, so now this is really how you should do this. Now, if you notice the oils at the top, Remember in the 80s, what was the worst thing to put in your body? What was the worst thing to eat in the 80s? What's that? Butter, yeah. So what is butter? It's a fat, yeah. So fat was the enemy in the 80s. You had Tab, you had Kellogg's, cornflakes, no fat. So they had to come up with an enemy. The enemy turned out that politically and PR-wise, they made it fat. It was not the case. It was actually the grains and the sugar. So that's why that's one of the smallest one up top. Now, if you look at like what a healthier food chart is this. What is our base? Vegetables. Yep. So vegetables, the reason why these are so important is because vegetables, greens, and really uncooked because it has a higher enzyme bank in it. But vegetables and plants are the only species on the planet that regenerate themselves. So if you break down the chemical structure of a vegetable or a fruit, almost every ingredient inside of the body becomes regenerative, which means that the body can draw from that. When I say living foods, I mean it has enzymes, and there's actually a frequency to the food. Like a processed Quaker oat is dead. If you measure the electrical frequency of oatmeal, there's nothing. There's almost no nutrients in a processed grain because they've stripped all of it out. But let's say you take an orange. It's got a high frequency, it's got high enzymes, it's got high antioxidants. Those are the foods that we want to regenerate the cells again. Okay, so when it comes to eating, it's exactly backwards. So whatever you've been taught in like 8th grade, flip it over. Just do the exact opposite. The meats are healthy in ratio. Vegetables are your base. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Going back to the meats, the two different types of meat.
Yeah.
Is there a difference?
I'm sorry, say it again?
The two types of meat, organ meats and protein, seafood and seafood. What's the difference?
Oh, so it's just organ meats are like your animals, like your livers, and then your seafood is like your fish out of the sea. It's all the same thing. Although, okay, you brought it up, so I'm going to talk about this. See, this is why I'm a terrible speaker, because I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. So I love seafood and I love beef. The challenge you have to watch in today's world, you do want to get organic, because a cow when they do the fields, they spray the fields with pesticides, obviously, so that the grass is there for the cows to eat. But a cow will eat all that food, hundreds of pounds of grass, and then it concentrates that pesticide because they just spray the top. But a cow eats so much it gets concentrated. Then it goes into the liver, and then it goes out to the muscles. So those pesticides and hormones go into the meat that you're eating, and that's what causes a lot of inflammation and food allergies. A lot of times we'll test people with food allergies, and they may think they're allergic to eggs or beef. It's not the protein. It's the pesticide that was in the protein that's going into the body. So yeah, appreciate you making me complicate things a little bit for us. But the seafood part of this is you got to watch the seafood part. I eat seafood at least 4 to 5 times a week, but there legitimately is a concern with mercury. It is no longer that you can get fish out of Nova Scotia. Look, we're destroying ourselves. So this whole thing, it may not be the motivational part, but what I want you to get out of this is that you got to be responsible for it. And you got to find out where your food's coming from. And you got to vote with your wallet, no question. All right, so how many people in here have heard of hormone therapy? This is number 2, okay? Yeah, me and Bill, big fans of this. All right, so I just started my first hormone therapy after years and years and years of research on it. So I'm very excited about doing hormones. But here's what's exciting about hormones. Hormones are the communicator in the body. When we look at somebody's health, almost every one of your doctors has probably taken blood work on you. A couple of things in regenerative medicine that we look at. We want to see the length of a telomere. Have you heard of telomeres before? Is that a new concept? Okay, go like this if you've never heard. So a telomere is when a cell divides. Longer telomeres mean longer, healthier life. Shorter telomeres mean cellular damage, which means you're going to die early. A horrible death. Maybe not horrible, but we want long telomeres. So the way you get long telomeres is by having healthy foods and movement, and that's one of the metrics that we do. The other one that we do here is visceral fat. When we put you on the in-body, we're trying to measure the outside fat, which is called subcutaneous fat, which kind of looks good. But in between the organs, you have visceral fat. And that's the dangerous fat. That's the fat that turns into cancer, heart disease, metabolic syndrome. It makes you age very quickly. So sometimes we have somebody who's lean, but they have high visceral fat. So if you're lean and have high visceral fat, are you healthy or are you sick? What are you? If you have high visceral fat, you're sick. Yeah. So, and then sometimes we have people who are like 280 pounds who look heavy, but their visceral fat is low. Is that a healthy or a sick person? It's a healthy person. Fat is not bad. So just because you see somebody who's round, typically the healthiest people have a little pooch. And you want a little pooch because most of the toxins that you have in your body get stored in the fat cell. So if you have no fat, then that toxin gets circulated very quickly by the liver. Now, just on the converse side of that, if you have a lot of fats, then you have a lot more area to store toxins, which is why it's more important to eat clean. But this is one of my favorite stories, and this ties into hormones, because hormones are things like insulin, estrogen, testosterone. One of the things that I watch quite a bit is insulin. Almost any regenerative medicine or health doctor that I've ever worked with or studied under, one of the metrics that we look for is insulin, because it's tied into your blood sugar. So you guys have been to your doctor and they've tested your sugar before. And the challenge with that is that when your doctor tests your sugar, by the time your sugar level is high and they call you a diabetic, it's too late. Because before the sugar level gets high, the insulin level gets high. So typically what happens is that your blood sugar stays here, your insulin level starts to stay high, and you get what we call insulin sensitive, which means that your body will not use the insulin, so that sugar stays low. And we want this sugar to stay low because that means that you're burning fat. Once this shifts, you're diabetic. Hormones that we deal with are insulin, testosterone, and estrogen. So Gil comes into my office, and he said, this is when we were at the last office, and we were doing the weight challenge. And it's 5:55. We close at 6 o'clock. The staff is ready to go. Angela walks back, and she says, you got to stay. You got to meet this guy. So he sits in front of me. He's like, I got to do something about this weight. He's like, or else I'm done. I'm going to check out. This is Gil on the left, and if you look at his eyes, he's just not alive. He's just not alive. So he does our weight loss challenge. He works with Angela's group. She wants to make sure that everybody knows this. He did amazing. The whole staff. Angela was his coach, so he did amazing. So this is Gil, 40 pounds, and this is 90 days? It was insane. It was insane.
And he's lost more, and he's kept it on. This is 8 years he's kept it on.
Yeah, so we lost 40 pounds. So by any measure, losing 40 pounds is healthy, right? You think this is great. You would be happy here. We're not done yet, though, because if you look at Gil on the right, even though he's lost 40 pounds, does he still look healthy? No, you can see his face. You can see the thickness in his skin. You don't see the vibrancy in his face. Being alive isn't just about breathing and have a pulse and having good metrics. It's being alive. It's having energy. It's helping others. It's going above and beyond yourself. So we pull Gil in, and this is after the contest, and say, listen, you're doing good, but what's holding you back? Like, you were doing really good. What's holding you back? So it turns out Gil had some personal things. Gil was struggling with some sexuality issues that his parents were making him feel guilty for, and that's irrelevant, but we've all got something that we hold on to and we feel embarrassed about, we have shame about, we have guilt over, and we hold on to that. And sometimes we don't feel like it's worthy for us to move on to the next thing. And just that little bit of a shift between our brain and our heart is what stops us from really going full bore to get what we want. So Angela, I have a kind of intervention. What do you want? What do you want to look like? Who do you want to be? He's like, he tells us his issue. We said, we love you anyway. It doesn't make a difference. So that kind of frees him up. And he's like, you know what I want to be? You know what I really effing want to be? Yes. What do you really effing want to be? He's like, I want to have like a black T-shirt and be muscular and have that beard with the sharp jaw. And people look at me and go, damn, who's that guy? And we're like, yes, you can do this. And Gil sends us this 1 year later.
Oh, wow.
Is that unbelievable?
Like 20 years old.
Yeah. Totally different person.
And he's jumping out of
Yeah.
airplanes. He's running his own business. He is living his best life.
He is. Is this about weight loss? No. No, you're fat for a reason, and you're fat because it's a symptom. Having extra fat, having a poor metabolism is not just about the food. It is one piece of it. There's a chemical component to it by all means. There's a spiritual component to it. There's an emotional component. There's a motivational component to it. This is what I talk about when I say get a little bit pissed off, find a strategy that's going to work for you, and then what's the third thing? Take action. He took some action. And when he slowed down, I will give Angela credit. She called him out. She wrote the meanest friggin' email. Like, you were doing so good. And, like, really was disappointed. I'm like, babe, are you sure you want to send this out? She's like, send it out. And then, look, sometimes you need a little tough love to wake up. All right? So we all need hormones. I'm not going to get too much into the science of hormone, but here's one of the things that I do like. And I just started this up. So they're called bioidentical hormones, and there's a synthetic hormone. So now that I'm over the age of 50, typically hormones start to drop in men about 38. Same time with women. After pregnancy, you can start to have some hormone shift too. So we do recommend you get your hormones tested. You can either do it through one of the labs or do it with your primary care doctor. Just have them add the hormones to it. And what you want to see is a range here. But one of the biggest challenges when it comes to treating hormones is synthetic hormones are not the same as bioidentical hormones. So we like the bioidentical. I just started mine on Friday. I think I'm starting to feel a little bit of the change in here.
Can I elaborate elaborate
Yeah.
on that? Because I think for women, especially women over 40, it's a really big deal. So if you're over 40, you hear hormones and you think breast cancer, ovarian cancer, uterine cancer. You know someone who was put on HRT and got cancer because of it. So the HRT that we know from the 80s is pregnant mare urine, Crimpro, those kind of things. Our body does not recognize it as something that should be there and sets up an inflammatory response. Inflammation equals disease. Bioidentical hormones are, like, for example, for women, progesterone is made from yams. You have to eat 1,000 a day to get that right dose of progesterone, but not only does your body recognize it as food, it's actually anti-inflammatory and decreases your risk of female cancers like breast cancer, uterine cancer, things like that. I know my mom freaked out when I first told her, you know, back at when I was like 37, 38, I'm doing some hormone replacement therapy. She's told me every friend she ever had who had hysterectomy and went on hormone replacement therapy and died of breast cancer or something like that. So if you're over a certain age and you know those horror stories from HRT, especially for women, I think men got in late on the game, so they've only all heard the good stuff. But I think it's important for women to know it is not your mother's and your mother's friend's hormone replacement. HRT and bioidentical hormone replacement are two completely separate things.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it was one of the reasons why I was reluctant to actually start it myself. Now, if you're interested in this, we're going to give you an offer for it, but we brought a new hormone expert in, and she's excellent. So Bill has met her. I don't know if you want to say a word or two, or I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
How do you like your hormone therapy?
I love my hormones. Like I say, if you had a T-shirt, I'd wear it. You know.
Oh, they're coming.
Well, it's on board all the way.
That's good.
Absolutely.
So if hormones are an issue, which any of us over 50, I feel it, but I'll keep you posted. I'm only 7 days in. Look at that. All right, let's talk about movement here. So one of the biggest things with physical medicine is movement. Now, you've heard me talk about you want to have some expression. If you've ever been in my office, I say you look a little down today. You look up today. We're looking at your breathing pattern. We're looking at your eyes. We're looking to see, are you alert? Are you conscious? You're present. And it's important because what that means is that you have energy that runs through your body, which is where the word emotion comes from. Emotion is energy in motion through the body. So if you've ever been to a football game, you've ever been to a basketball game, and you feel energized, you've been screaming for your team, you're pumped up, you're jumping, or you go out to a nightclub and you're dancing, you're moving your body, that's how we create energy. We have food as the fuel, motion is the engine. That's how this works. So one of the challenges if you've got like knee pain or joint pain or shoulder pain and you can't move that joint anymore, has anybody here been injured and you can't move for a while? Like what happens to your energy level? It tanks. Yeah, and then depression comes in because when you don't move your body, it's a good point. So you're ahead of me here. So look at me here. Okay, do I look happy or do I look sad? All right, is my breathing deep or is it shallow? Am I hunched forward or am I up? Yeah, so this is universal. It doesn't matter what country you're from. When you see that posture, it's a universal, it's a human condition. Is that when we get tired, when we get sad, this is the position we put ourselves in. And if I stay here long enough and you take a blood draw from me, you're going to get cortisol levels that go up. I'm going to change my hormonal response from my physical action. So you ever heard of the Wonder Woman study? The Superman study? So just holding the Wonder Woman pose or the Superman pose for 3 minutes changes blood chemistry. That's it. So get the body back in motion. Now I know some of you have pain, which is why we talk about doing regenerative medicine stuff. And my big thing with that is not only just getting you out of pain, but getting the correction down to the point where it's not just no more pain in the joint, but getting a better movement pattern again. So like I know you've been hurt quite a bit before. So like anybody get out of bed in the morning, you're just like, you have to turn this way first, and then do this, and then do this, and then do this. So that's a movement pattern. Like I was paralyzed on the football field, and I recognized almost 2 years after the injury that I was holding on to parts of my nervous system and my stress that no longer served me, but it was a pattern that had protected me for so long it's become a habit. So like if we were going to do leg day in the gym, it was like, I can't do leg day, I have a terrible back, which is one of the worst things you can tell yourself, that you can't do something because of something over here which is no longer true. So that took me years to get to the point where I realized, hey, you know what, that's no longer true. I'm no longer the victim of my injury. I'm no longer the victim of my pain. I'm a survivor. And the way I became a survivor out of that is I took action. So I want you to take action. Now, if you hear me talk sometimes, because I don't like doing drug therapy, I don't like over-medicating the body just to cover up the symptom, because then you don't know what the problem is. You're never getting to the root cause of it. We're not building those cells up if we just numb the pain receptor. But it doesn't mean I'm against surgery. So I was working out with Braxton, my son, and I no longer have business working out with a 21-year-old. So benching, the weight, and I'll be honest, the weight didn't feel bad. I picked it up and I tore my rotator cuff. So I went home and said, babe, I hurt my rotator cuff. She's like, oh, you poor baby. Let's take care of you. Let's make this feel better. So it wasn't healing. So I did laser. I did PRP. We put the blood in. I'll go over that in a second here. And it's healed. In 6 to 8 weeks, we used all the technology, torn rotator cuff. Now, if I had a full tear, I would have needed surgery. I didn't have a full tear. I had a 25% tear. Amazing stuff. No physical therapy, no drugs. 6 to 8 weeks, 100% healed. Braxton calls me up and goes, you feeling good, Dad? I'm like, oh my God, I feel great. He's like, let's go to the gym. So I went and I did it again. And I tore the same rotator cuff, and I had to call her up and say, I just tore my rotator cuff. Oh, poor babe, what happened? And I'm like, I told her, I said, oh my God, you're an idiot. But there's a lesson here, is that even though with regenerative medicine we can heal the tissue, and I'm a big proponent of this, it doesn't mean that that tissue is stronger. There is a point where matter, tissue, hard tissue, soft tissue, doesn't recover. So like when I say like how great some of the stuff is, there are limits to it. So that doesn't mean that I can't work out. That just means I can't work out with a 21-year-old doing 315 pounds on a bench press. Because here's what does happen is that I can still do, especially now that I'm doing the testosterone, I can build muscle mass. But it's very difficult to strengthen ligament. Ligaments tend to kind of lose their elasticity. So what I keep tearing is the ligament and not the muscle. So if you start doing hormone therapy and you start benching and tearing some things, not my fault. I gave you the little warning up front, okay? So we do a lot here. We do a lot of orthopedic stuff. We do a lot of non-surgical stuff. We do cosmetics on the med spa side, aesthetics, sexual health, erectile dysfunction, vaginal dryness, hair restoration. It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing, whether you're on the med spa side or on the healthcare side. What we're all trying to figure out is what part of the cell is damaged. Is it the collagen that gives you the wrinkles if it starts to get loose? Is it the skin cell? Is it the cartilage? Is it the muscle? Is it the ligament? What makes us different, I think, than a lot of other offices, one is that we're all lunatics about how much we love doing this stuff. But number two is we really get the diagnosis right. Like I think you or one of the girls may have come in, some patients come in here with other diagnoses, and they're incorrect, or they're not completely incorrect, they're just not complete. Like it might be a scoliosis with a strain, and you were just diagnosed with a strain and not the full scoliosis, so you're only getting partial treatment. The reason why we do what we do with the x-rays and the whole orientation here is to get the whole big picture taken care of. So when we do this, it's like now we're treating the whole thing. You know what to expect and what not to expect. All right, how am I doing? Good. All right, so two things I want to go over with you real quick is PRP. Is this a new term for anybody? PRP? Okay, so PRP stands for platelet-rich plasma. This is one of my favorite treatments. And what platelet-rich plasma is we'll take the blood out, we'll spin the blood like a regular blood draw, and then we'll separate the plasma out from the red blood cell. So the plasma is the part of the blood that if I cut my arm, the plasma is what comes and heals it. So the difference between you and a dead body is how the plasma works in the body. This is what heals. So let's say it's a shoulder or it's a knee, then we'll take your own plasma out and we'll hyper-concentrate it, and we'll put a big dose into that joint, and then it causes a massive healing response. Now, typically phases 1 and 2 will do what's called PRP. But what we do different here, and if you do PRP elsewhere, I'm fine with that, just know this. You have to include the diet in this. So in your folders, you're going to see something called the anti-inflammatory diet. This is critical because guess what makes the blood and the plasma? It's your food. So if you have high sugar in your diet, or you have a lot of like pesticides, or you have like a lot of garbage, a lot of stuff's going to turn up in the blood, and now we're just going to hyper-concentrate some of that stuff. Now it's not like it's horrible as far as the treatment. Even bad PRP gets a good result. But clean PRP or a higher volume gets a much better result. So if I'm going to give you a drug and say, we get another 10% effectiveness out of this drug, would you rather go on that drug than something else? Yeah, most of you would. But that's what happens. That's how powerful the diet is. Now, if you got more advanced stages, I hope you don't mind me bringing you up, Bill.
Please.
You came today.
I'll be the guinea pig.
Okay, so Bill's the guinea pig. So sometimes you get injuries that are old and they degenerate a lot faster. So what we'll do is we rate you from grade 1, 2, 3, and 4. Grades 1 and 2, we get great results with more of like the PRP and the laser, and that's usually enough for it. If you get to more advanced stages like grades 3 and 4, where it's like bone on bone, or you've lost a lot of cartilage, then we can do stem cell therapy. Now, stem cell therapy, when we use it in an orthopedic application, there's no fetuses involved. It's a mesenchymal stem cell. It just comes from a donated umbilical cord, so there's a high concentration of these. And then we can implant these in. And basically what a stem cell is a cell that has not differentiated yet. So it hasn't turned into bone, it hasn't turned into ligament, it hasn't turned into hair. So when you put that in contact with that body needs, it'll help regenerate your own stem cells to help repair that tissue. Amazing stuff, but again, this works in great conjunction with your diet. Okay? So when we look at a joint, how many people here have joint pain or have had joint pain? All right, have you had an X-ray? So when you have an X-ray, if your doctor doesn't point this out, what you want to look for is this. Do you see on this one that says before? You see that thick white cortical margin right there? That's what osteoarthritis looks like on an X-ray. So if you're diagnosing osteoarthritis, this is what you look for. This is the definitive diagnosis, is from the X-ray. Blood work does not tell us if it's osteoarthritis. It tells us if it's rheumatoid arthritis, but osteo, we have to take the X-ray. Now, what we want to do is rate this. So this is actually what we call a 3, because it's thin here, and you can see a little bone spur right over there. So that means that they've had this for a long time. So what we did here is that we put them in a brace because we want to open up that joint space. We do PRP on this, we do stem cell on this, and then this is what 3 months later looks like. So as magical as this looks like, really ultimately what we're doing is what Angela said, is that we're taking the inflammation out. If you have osteoarthritis, if you have laryngitis, if you have pericarditis, if you have tendinitis, anything with an itis means inflammation. So whatever you do to bring the inflammation down in that first part of the word, that's how you fix it. So that's all it is. All right, now I'm going to share this one with you here. When we look at knees or joints, a lot of people come with some really, really bad stuff. And with regenerative medicine, you have to stay within a protocol. So this is what we call a phase 4. This is one of my patients from about a year ago. And you can see on this before, you see how it's bone on bone? So this is as bad as it gets that we'll take you in here. Now, what I told her was she had a pain scale about 8 out of 10. And what I told her is if we see on the X-ray that these bones have fused together and there's no space, then there's not much we can do because we can't get the PRP or the stem cell in between there to fix the joint. So I'm going to send you over to the orthopedic. You're going to most likely need a knee replacement. So she comes back about 2 weeks later. She goes, I didn't like the doctor. All he wanted to talk about was drugs and surgery, and he wants to do a knee replacement. So I said, if we're not, just know that typically when we do this kind of regenerative medicine, it's about a 75 to 85% success rate. When you get to phase 4 like this, where there's almost no space, it drops down to 30% success rate. So that's why these get critical to refer out. So she blows this up and she sent me this picture and she said, look, if I blow this up big enough, you can see there's a little tiny black line on the bottom. She's like, they're not fused yet, but they're close. So I'm like, all right, we'll do this. And then this is almost 6 months later, and the one to the left is her knee. Now, she didn't go pain-free. She went from an 8.9 to a 1.2. But if that's you, going from an 8.2 to a 2 is a massive difference. So she still may not be out of the woods for a knee replacement, but I can tell you we probably bought her another 10 to 15 years. And when it comes to knee replacements that only last 10 years, that's pretty good. And she did good with the diet. But not all of you need PRP or stem cell knee replacement. Some new innovative stuff, and this is what I really love to share, is really what some innovations out there. If you guys want to know the secret to why this practice is the way it is, it's really all from me. With my back and my shoulders, and as much as I hurt myself, all this stuff in here is really for me. You guys just to get the benefit from it. Angela?
Because I'm 3 years older, all the good looking stuff over there is all for me.
All the aesthetic stuff is over there. So lasers and all that. So the two things that we do over here that I really, really am loving and seeing a lot of great results with is what's called a class 4 laser and one is called shockwave. Now, there are two different things, and sometimes you'll see people say, well, laser is better than shockwave is better than laser. It doesn't make a difference because they're both used for two different things. So shockwave is actually FDA approved now for anything that's tendinitis, anything that's bursitis, and even certain parts of arthritis. And shockwave is basically, it destroys things. So it's not the most comfortable treatment that we have. But what it does is we can put the shockwave on somebody with tendinitis or arthritis, and it literally blasts the tissue. It breaks the damage down. So where a surgeon, orthoscopic surgeon, would go in there and scrape the joint or scrape the ligament, all she's doing is breaking the scar tissue down, closing you back up. The new shockwave machines now will do the same thing through the skin and blast it. And sometimes I hear people moan a little bit, just a little bit, because we're breaking the scar tissue up. And then the laser it has a good effect on the same type of injuries, but it treats you differently. The laser promotes the healing. So the shockwave breaks things down quite a bit. You only need like 3 to 5 treatments maximum on shockwave. Laser, we can do laser your whole life. I still do laser once a month. Yeah, the laser feels good. The laser is a very comfortable treatment to get. All right, I'm going to skip over some stuff with stem cells, but I do want to walk you through a couple things with this. So stem cells is like the Wild Wild West. That means you've got everybody and their mother now saying that they do stem cells. They're not all the same thing. When we do stem cells in the U.S., we cannot use embryonic cell tissue, and we shouldn't. Right now, the mesenchymal stem cell is in the umbilical cord. It's great. It's effective. Bill has had it, and you're a difficult case. I mean, honestly, you're a difficult case.
A lot of people say I'm difficult.
Yeah, multiple levels. But how was your results overall?
It was amazing. So I came in without being able to lie flat, without pain in my hip. I just couldn't get a good night's sleep. And 6 months later, I'm climbing a mountain in Colorado.
Yeah, legitimately, yeah. And hips are tough because we can't brace a hip. You can't effectively brace a hip. But with stem cells, the reason I bring this up now is because it's getting so popular and the results are so good that you're starting to see your dentists starting to do stem cell for all kinds of crazy stuff. When you're doing stem cells for an orthopedic condition, number one, you have to get the diagnosis correct. And where the diagnosis is the problem is where the stem cells need to be planted. You can't very effectively put stem cells in the shoulder and expect it to fix the knee. And there are clinics that are doing that right now, so just know that. But you basically are born with like 400,000 stem cells. You have got one stem cell for every cell in your body. The challenge is that we get older, our demand gets higher, but our resources get less. When we're young, we've got high resources, low demand, but as we get older, we start to lose that. Now, here's not the great news, but by the time you're 50, this is when we start to see you almost have 40 times less stem cells than you did when you were in your 20s. And that's where the problem happens. Now, there's other ways to keep the stem cell count high other than just putting stem cells in. We go back to food. So what's a stem cell? Stem cells are new cells come out of the bone marrow, and your body uses stem cells to heal the body. The way you do that is by putting good foods in the body for the red blood cells to reproduce themselves again. And there's better foods than others, but really, you're back to veggies. Remember when some mom said, eat your veggies? That's it. She wasn't lying. But when I add one more thing to that, I do like organic vegetables better than like the pesticide ones. And just a little side note is that if you really want to get the maximum result out of your vegetable, you want to make sure you don't overcook it. Anything over 118 degrees destroys the enzyme bank in it. So if you want to get like a perfect broccoli, you don't like the raw broccoli, steam it for just a couple of minutes, get a little soft but crunchy, and you still keep the enzymes. Okay? Now, Angela heard me do this talk before, and she heard me talk about the collagen. Like when we're dealing with joints, the collagen is the protein that's part of the cartilage that protects the joint, but it's also what's in your face. So when you see someone who gets older who starts to get wrinkles, what you're actually seeing is the body's inability to repair the damage to the collagen, which is the protein that holds the skin up tight. So, they've got all kinds of things that they can contract that collagen with, which I thought was interesting when we did the training. The way they do it for the face is that they talk about boxers. Like boxers have usually beautiful, like nice, tight skin on their face. It's because they get punched all the time. And when you get punched, you damage the collagen, which is what the shockwave does. And then the body sends its own stem cells to heal it. That's why getting punched in the face might not be the worst thing for some people. So let's go through, let's go back to, think about when you're in your 30s. How do you guys feel in your 30s compared to you are now? Great. Yeah, 30 is a peak. Now, 30 is the first step off that we see. From 30 to just literally 31 is the first step off when you see where we shift from where we have high resources to high demand. The next one is typically, though, is when we get to 60. 30 is when you start to feel that soreness and the hair changes, but literally 61 is the next step off. So somewhere between 30 and 61 is our second phase to really do a lot of this correction. Anybody here know anybody over 61 who may need a little help? You can raise your hand. You can raise your hand for John.
I'm 60.
Oh, you got a long time to wait, Sheldon.
Okay.
Tons of time. All right, so again, the most important thing, is anybody getting anything out of this? Is this making sense to some people? You guys getting something out of this? So if you're dealing with something now and you don't know what your diagnosis is, it's critical to get the diagnosis correct. If you have somebody that you want us to take a look at, we'll take a look at them, but we want to get the diagnosis correct. And if you get into these later stages of phase 4, then we will probably be recommending surgeries.
I'll say one more thing about diagnosis
Yeah.
and hormones. A lot of times in my aesthetic consult, I am constantly referring people to get their hormones checked. You don't have to get them checked here. Please get them checked somewhere else. You have acne, you have melasma, you have premature aging skin. It's and they say, I asked my OBGYN to test my hormones. He said, I'm fine. Everything's normal. Okay, so here's your box of normal. And as we age and our food system gets more broken, they just keep moving that box. Oh, they go, oh yeah, every woman has shitty hormones at 55. So we're not looking here. Your OBGYN may. But here, we are not looking, do you fit inside this little box? Because who wants normal? We want optimal.
Mm-hmm.
We want to still have sex drive in our 50s. We have a lot of that line left. We still want to have energy. We still want, anti-aging benefits of it. We want heart protective benefits. We want chemo preventative benefits. So we are not looking for normal. So just know that if you go to your primary care or your OBGYN and get your hormones tested, they may say yes. That's completely normal for a 61-year-old woman. Yeah, 61-year-old women don't have any hormones. But we want you to have a little hormone.
Yeah.
So just consider where you are getting the diagnosis as well.
It's funny you say that because I just had a patient come in the other day whose sugar is now at like 140, and her doctor said, "Nah, that's okay because everybody's sugar is getting higher." Because because our bodies aren't in sync with what the newscast says. Our bodies for the last 2,000 years have had the same needs. So I'm going to open it up we're going to get ready for a raffle here. What kind of questions do we have? Because I hit a lot. We hit food, we hit joint, we hit movement. What kind of questions do we have, Latoya?
So I have two questions. My first question is, I switched from cow's milk to oat milk.
Yeah.
So now I'm hearing that that's oats is like a grain or wheat, right?
Yeah. So, but oat milk is not a grain or a wheat. Oat milk is it's juice with a squeeze from oats.
So is it okay?
It's okay. What you have to watch though is the amount of sugar that comes with that.
Okay.
So you're not very sugar sensitive. You actually respond pretty well. But you still, for women, you want to keep it about 30 grams of sugar a day or less. But oat milk is safe, and it is better than cow's milk. And if you're a man in this room and you're still drinking milk, stop. You're done breastfeeding. It's over. Most of you, I hope are done with that. But the problem with men and milk is that it's got a casein protein, which we know is completely linked to prostate cancer. And if you have a milk sensitivity, whether you're a man or a woman, is if you get phlegmy after you drink milk, that's the inflammatory response.
I'll say this too about another really popular milk product. If you see it in Starbucks, everybody's ordering a soy latte.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you are a postmenopausal woman, do not touch soy. Only organic soy, first of all. It is the most chemical and genetically modified product on the planet. So only organic soy. Soy is purely a phytoestrogen, so it spikes your estrogen levels. Someone like me can use a little soy milk in their coffee every now and then. Nobody else should be drinking soy. Our food system is so loaded with estrogens. If you're not eating organic 100% of the time, not eating out of plastics 100% of the time, or if you still have a period, you do not need soy.
Yeah,
So
it's a good point.
that one
Yeah,
as well.
Estrogenic is really one of our biggest problems right now as far as cancers. What other questions do we have?
Are you talking about like all soy products, like tofu or?
All soy products, yeah. Especially the more processed it is, the more it actually can become more toxic because they heat it.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Beans are a great source of protein.
What was the question?
Love beans. What is a vegetarian
Vegetarian
supposed to eat
for protein.
for protein?
So,
Find a good vegan protein
100%.
shake.
So
Pea protein.
that MetaBoost, are you talking about you or friend? You're the friend. Okay. So that MetaBoost is one that I like it for two reasons. One, it's a pea protein, organic pea protein. And then two, it also has a piece to it that lowers the insulin so it helps burn fat.
And here's the truth. This protein thing has kind of been beaten into us. If you're pregnant, let's watch your protein grams. If you got something else going on, let's watch your protein grams. But I guarantee you, if you're eating a healthy, well-rounded diet, you're getting enough protein. Don't overthink it. Don't over stress it. Blood work gets out of whack or whatever. But really, if you're super, super old or you're pregnant is when you need to make, like, or bodybuilding, then you need to make sure you're getting those 80, 120, whatever grams of protein. I think that that's something that has been pushed on vegetarians to make you feel bad about
Yeah.
being a vegetarian.
Do you feel bad about being a vegetarian?
Let it go.
Always.
Count
Really?
Your,
Okay,
count your
interesting.
sugar and forget about your protein, and your health will soar. You are gonna get enough protein in your diet.
So just to put your mind at ease, Ange and I were both trained at Cornell by Dr. Campbell on the plant-based diet. It is literally one of the healthiest diets you can have on the planet. So you probably would really benefit from having your hormones checked, like a real panel.
Well, from a gynecologist.
Yeah. So that's a medical one. What Angela was talking about was optimization levels.
Right, I heard her say
Yeah.
And
So
you can bring those results.
Yeah,
To talk
yeah.
To me. You don't need to get your blood drawn.
yeah, you don't have to do it again.
I
Just
mean,
bring it in.
It's the interpretation of it that matters.
Okay.
He's not going to test you any differently than we're going to test you.
Sure.
It's how they're going to read those results and your symptoms. But count your sugar, count your protein.
That's my problem.
Let it go. Let
Oh,
it
I
go.
remember. I know.
Because you're not getting enough protein.
What do you got, Latoya?
Let it go.
Yeah, one more question.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to know, like, the direct connection to hormones and mental health, because I saw, like, a list of stuff that you had up there, anxiety, depression, low energy, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And I suffer from that, and I would never think to.
Yeah, I know you're dying to answer that. So go.
This is.
And I don't want to be on, I don't
I
want to
think
take.
Yeah.
this is. I mean, it's a female, more of a female problem than it is a male problem. It makes me, like, the more I think about it, it makes me angry. This is why women get called hysterical or crazy. Any woman who has menstruated knows that in that time leading up to your period, when you have this estrogen surge, you have fewer coping skills, let's say, than you do at any other time of the month. Okay, then the progesterone comes in, you get a progesterone wash, you come in, you get this relaxation hormone, your period comes in, you're like, oh, I instantly feel better. It's that hormone fluctuation that goes. The divorce rate is the highest in the United States in perimenopausal women. When we get really estrogen dominant, we've had enough of everybody. It doesn't matter how long we've been with you or how handsome you are.
Sounds like me every day.
We're done. We're done. The divorce rate has more to do with women's hormones than almost anything else. That estrogen progesterone balance makes you lose your coping skills. And it is worse every generation than it was the generation before because of our food system. Because we're being pumped estrogen from every direction, left and right, and your body cannot process it. I tell all my aesthetics clients, if you're going to do nothing else, if you're not going to pay for a hormone panel, if you're not going to get on some bioidentical progesterone, if you're not going to do anything else, you do no meat and no dairy unless it is grass-fed and organic. Period. And you look at a supplement called DIM. It's made from cruciferous vegetables, and what it does is it flushes excess estrogen out of your liver. So not free-flowing estrogen, but flushes it out of your liver. Now, is that going to make you love your husband again? DIM's probably not enough. You probably need to do the full hormone panel and do all of that. But hormones directly affect your mood, your mental health, and the number one thing it affects is your sleep. If you are not getting truly restorative sleep, and if you're a woman over 30, you know you don't have any problem falling asleep. Everybody can fall asleep. You're not staying there for more than 20 or 30 minutes. And that will make you so irritable.
Oh, yeah.
It will make your cortisol levels go up. It will make you fat. It will make your hair fall out. It will make you yell at your husband. It will make you yell at your kids. And what's doing that is the lack of progesterone. Progesterone, actually, when we put women on bioidentical hormones, they take their progesterone at night. My prescription even says, and I just noticed yesterday, I was laughing in the kitchen, my prescription says take it at 8 p.m. So apparently my doctor wants me in bed by 9, because that's about how long it takes. And it's not Tylenol PM drowsy, but it's starts stimulating some melatonin and some serotonin, and it's calming and relaxing, and everybody says, you sleep like a baby? And I'm like, no, I'm crying every 2 hours. That's what I used to do. Now I sleep like a teenager. You you go to bed, you stay asleep. I mean, that's what kind of drove me to the doctor. I spent 3 years, I would, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I would start thinking, all right, how am I going to sleep? Okay, let's do the bath. Let's do the lavender. Let's turn this down. Let's start doing it. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, let's start stressing about how in the world we're going to get some sleep.
Red
and
wine.
You still wake up.
It's an option.
Everything.
It's an option.
Red wine with magnesium.
It's
in
true.
It, in the
That's
Epsom
true.
Salt bath.
Yes.
I started going around turning off everybody's phones and everybody's lights at 4 o'clock.
I think I gave you that
Let's have
recommendation.
circadian rhythms. Let's do whatever.
It's good.
It actually helps me sleep.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. Everybody has magnesium deficiency. But just kidding. And you remember, even when you were young and you were sleep deprived, you were cranky. And excess estrogen is what's keeping you awake. It's what's keeping men awake too now. Men didn't used to be estrogen dominant. Not until the food system got so broken. Men didn't used to have estrogen issues. And now they do because of our broken food system. So men are starting to not, tossing and turning and not being able to sleep anymore. So there are many more, but that is the main kind of mental health hormone connection, especially for females.
What she said. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. What other questions do we have?
I have one question. Okay, this is kind of a scenario I want to build. I have a friend who is very overweight, and she's gone to her doctor numerous times, and the doctor keeps telling her, you need to lose weight. You're on the borderline of diabetic. You got to lose the weight. You got to lose the weight. She keeps eating all the wrong foods, and I keep telling her, you're going to have to cut that out. You're going to have to stop that. What can she do? Can she come to you?
Let me tell you.
You can help her.
So your friend.
And she'll change.
No, well, yeah. Get her a little bit pissed off first,
Yeah.
and then have her go to call to action. But I'm going to share some of my change of belief systems after 25 years. I don't know if you remember coming to me maybe 15 years ago. It was a while when you first came.
Yeah.
And if you came to me 15 years ago, it was like no medication, no surgery, eat healthy, get off your ass, start moving. It was take responsibility, because that's kind of I really believe that. But after 25 years, I've softened that. Because what we're talking about with the food system and what we're talking about estrogen dominance and what we're talking about with toxicity literally in people's lives, obesity is now truly a disease that some people don't have control over.
Right.
So we just started, I just allowed a medication in this office, the first one ever. So they're called GLP-1s. They are life-changing. Fatty liver, obesity, morbid obesity, we're getting people within 6 weeks dropping 30 and 40 pounds, which actually is a little too fast, but no matter how bad their habits are, it gets them out of obesity. And then we start with that. So if you want to talk about somebody, if you want to get people to make a change and they can't do it on their own, then we have them make small agreements. So it may be too hard for her to say, just eat healthy for the rest of your life and exercise.
Right.
She can't wrap her head around that.
Exactly.
So we say, okay, let's try this for 6 weeks. Let's measure your belly fat. Let's measure your circumference. Let's measure your weight. And after 6 weeks, you don't have to change anything. Just try this. And it is just dropping off.
I think lots of people, that's
Great.
what people have wanted all,
yeah.
I don't want to diet and exercise. Can't you just give me a shot that will make me lose weight? Now we can.
Yeah, so I don't love it. I love it, but I don't love
But
it.
it saves people's
Yeah.
lives.
It was made for diabetes.
It is made for diabetes. Yeah, it's actually for diabetics. But
Mounjaro, Ozempic, semaglutide,
they're
they
all
all
GLP-1s, and our chemistry has gotten so good, these are even getting better. So we will actually have a chemical fix for obesity. We have one now, but we even have more stuff coming. But if I'm doing it in this office, you bet your ass you're going to get some lifestyle management with it. Like, you still have to get off your butt. You still have to work out. You still have to learn how to eat healthy. Because at one point, you're going to want to come off of that stuff. And then what happens if you come off that stuff, but you never learned really instilling habits? Because the reason why I let that come in here is because if you do lose 70 pounds, then my next conversation with you is you don't want to back, do you? Like, how good do you feel right now? And then I try to leverage that with you. Okay.
So do you do like food counseling, help people with like, I haven't been here in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a few things, yeah.
You know, counseling on how, like, this is, instead of eating this way, eat this, you know?
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
That,
Yeah.
we meet that person where they are,
Okay.
when they're ready.
Yep.
Some people come in and they say, just give me a shot. And we're like, you have 15 pounds to lose. Just quit driving through Chick-fil-A on the way home.
Yeah.
Let's make it work.
Yeah.
And some people come in here on their deathbed, on the verge of diabetes and cancer and every other disease.
And then we have to get a little more
sugar
aggressive.
is as addictive as cocaine is.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we say,
Oh, absolutely.
drink some more water and let us give you a shot every week. And when they see for the first time in their life that the weight starts coming off, then they're ready for, okay, now eat an organic apple a day. And then when they're ready,
I'll do it with her.
okay,
Yeah.
then your next step is X, Y. So some people need it in tiny increments,
Yeah.
and they need to get their confidence
Yeah.
up again.
Your friend is not
Feel like
ready
this
to
is
take on something
this
big.
is
Yeah.
possible.
And people like that, the first thing we want to do is we want quick results.
Right.
They need to see something like immediately.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
food is
Yeah. She
is
does.
so addictive right
And
now.
she
Some
goes-
people get to the point where, yeah, you're gonna die early. Well, I would rather die early than never eat chocolate cake again.
Right.
I mean, they're like, okay, it's worth it because it is so addictive.
Yeah.
So many people in our society have gotten like, either you can totally deprive yourself and never eat anything good again and be nice and skinny, or you can eat all the chocolate and eat all the good stuff, and people are just like, screw it.
Yeah.
Why bother?
Right,
Because it is our food has been intentionally made so addictive.
Mm-hmm.
So that is just the way that we have
And
finally
it's
come
true.
to
Learn
let's
how to eat. You know they're going to put all
100%.
that additives in to make it taste
100%.
So
good.
that's part of the lifestyle management that I make sure everybody gets.
Yeah.
So whether you're coming in for just like an all natural or a medication one, we have it all online too.
Okay.
So they can access it 24/7.
it's just
We do this together, seriously, because when we do
I have
things together,
another
it's
question.
Let's get ready for one more raffle.
Really fast.
Yeah, what do you got?
I'm Puerto Rican.
Congratulations. Love the food.
Yes. But I have this, I've been trying to do all of this with the kids and Anthony and whatnot.
yeah.
They love their rice. Like, I cannot take
Mm-hmm.
that from them.
But
Yeah, so rice is healthy. Rice and beans is the perfect combination for protein. You cannot get a better combination of rice and beans. The challenge is that when you
ratio of rice.
the ratio of rice and beans is true. 1-to-1 with rice and beans is good, but it's also the type of rice. If it's a quick rice to make, then it breaks down to sugar very quickly. A rice that takes 40 to 50 minutes to make, that's an original rice recipe.
See,
Yeah,
That's what we have for dinner.
that's a healthy rice. It's a slow burn.
Rice is not good.
No.
yeah.
You can do rice, but what you want, then you want to go into the food portion. But that rice is okay. That is not a bad rice.
And then strain it and then.
I don't have to take it.
If it takes 30 to 40 minutes to make,
Yeah.
it's a slow burning carb.
It does.
That's not the problem. So if somebody is obese and they're eating that, they're either eating too much of it or go look at the soda. Go look at where else the sugar's coming in, because that's not it. And fruit, if you guys have a doctor tell you go off of fruit, I've never met a person with a weight problem and their problem is fruit. So just be clear about that. All right, you want to raffle?
Yeah, we have a little bit of a raffle issue. Maybe you should ask a question from the.
Okay, so here's the question. Whoever raises their hand answers it first. So I'm militant about this. Almost every single patient I have, we measure this. What do you call the most dangerous type of fat in the body?
Visceral fat.
Bam.
Very good.
Bam. Miss Rice and Beans. Miss Rice and Beans. Okay, so I know we had it 7, so if you have any questions, I'll hang out as long as you want. But
We have more stuff to give away. Let's
Oh.
going.
I want that.
We gotta
Yeah.
We got a glass of water bottle.
All right, so ask another question? All right, so put your hand up so it's fair. So let's go to, oh my gosh. All right, so what is the dominant hormone that's dangerous for women?
Estrogen.
Look at you. Look at you. From out of nowhere, right? All right. Oh, this is a good one. All right. All right. So, what is the? I'm gonna kind of throw a lob for somebody here who I hope wins this. What is the lowest ranking military member?
What? You don't know the answer to that question?
What? Hey, Colin won. Wow, that was amazing.
You know the answer to that question? You cannot ask a question that you do not know the answer to.
E1 is as basic as it gets. It's the only thing I know about the military. E1 is the lowest pay scale on the chart. It's over here. Yes.
Okay. How about what is the one supplement I recommend to people to flush estrogen from the liver?
Dim.
Ooh! Damn, from out of nowhere. Mr. Testosterone steps up.
You can do another one. It's fine.
You want a stem cell placenta mask? You can have it, but
Another question.
I need another question.
He said, not really.
Oh my gosh, I'm usually good with these. Now you're on the spot. All right, so how many phases of osteoarthritis are there?
You didn't talk about that.
Oh,
You're already patient. No, we did talk about that. The first, how many phases? The first two are for PRP. The second phase is how many phases? Pick a number, damn it. There you go. Yes. Well done. Well done. Oh, it's a big one. Okay.
Those are good.
That's a good one, though. I like this one.
This is my skincare line that came out this year. This is my favorite sunscreen on the planet. It is tinted and it has hyaluronic acid and vitamin E in it. So it is a sunblock and a treatment. And if you crave the sun, get your vitamin D levels tested. I used to think I couldn't live without it, so I got my vitamin D levels. But this is the one piece of aesthetics advice I can give to anybody. You want to look younger? Oh, God. You gotta wear sunblock. You gotta reapply it.
All right, so I have a question because I want everybody in this room to know the answer to this. There's only two fuel sources in the body. One is sugar, and the other is... Bill, you won again. No, you're right. You won. Bill, you actually listened. You did good. You listened to all of it. You're a good student. All right, so Bill wins a water bottle. Bill is now excluded from this one. He won a water bottle. All right, so something we did talk about tonight. Okay, so when it comes to organic food, what are we trying to get out of that food? What are we trying to avoid when we eat organic? Bill, yeah. Pesticides, number one, yep. So just so you know, organic, U.S.